Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. So in this video, I want to talk about the Haddonfield Radio Tower. Now, for those of you that might not know what I'm talking about, well, in Halloween Kills, during the Halloween 1978 flashback, there's a couple of times that you see a radio tower off in the distance, and you also see it again during present day in the movie as well. And well, Halloween Kills was just released digitally just a few days ago as of shooting this video. It's coming to physical media, to 4K discs everywhere next month. With a ton of special features, but those special features were also released digitally with the digital release a couple of days ago. And one of the special features, of course, is the director's commentary. And there's something that David Gordon Green said in that director's commentary that has a lot of Halloween fans going, look at that. What's that mean? And that is that, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he basically said, you see that radio tower there in the background, that's going to play a significant role in Halloween Ends. Now, obviously, he didn't get into the nitty-gritty details of what that would be because that would be spoiler territory. But that's interesting because when you watch the movie, and all of us did, it just looks like a radio tower in the background. It's a nice aesthetic. Oh, that's interesting. And I believe, I stand to be corrected, but I believe it was digitally put in as well. That's not really there. And obviously, there is no radio tower like that in the 1978 original, at least not that I can remember. So obviously it was planted there, you know, a bit of foreshadowing to set up the direction for which they're taking this story. Okay, cool. Now there's a lot of people that seem to think that there's a couple of camps here, right? There's the camp that feel that maybe it's just a cool location for a climax, and that's what he means. And maybe it's nothing more than just a cool location for the climax, right? And I don't know, Allison's like climbing up the tower and she gets electrocuted, and she falls to the ground and Michael's right on her tail. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, sure. Okay, sure. Maybe it's just a cool location. It's a cool location, looks cool. So there's a lot you could do around there. Sure. But I don't think that's what it is. I mean, yes, it is a cool location, but I don't think that's just what it is, and it's just a cool location to have a final battle. That's not what I think it is. I think it is going to be much more layered than that and much more symbolic than that. At least, I hope so. Now, having said that I hope so, that is the filmmaker, that is the fan in me that appreciates layered storytelling and symbolism and cinematic language and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that there could not be issues with the direction for which I think they're probably going to go. Because with the direction that I think they're probably going to go, you open up a whole other can of worms where you may or may not, depending on the execution, but you run the risk of demystifying everything a la Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, and demystifying Michael Myers. So there is that caveat there. There is that kind of like, you know, what are we going to do? So what am I talking about? Well, I believe that the radio tower plays a huge role because it emits certain frequencies. Now, I'm not suggesting that Michael is the way he is because of some morning show in 1978 that was like, good morning, Haddonfield. It's 5 degrees out here today. And Michael, it's time to get up and kill. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, at least I hope not. I'm not suggesting that Michael hears English words telling him to get up and kill. I don't, you know, Danny, kill for me. We don't need Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. What I'm suggesting is that obviously we know that there are different, that the brain can be affected by different frequencies, and they affect the different brain waves. So let's go over to the other screen for a second. I want to show you this. This is what are brain waves. All right. Well, it says here, at the root of all our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is the communication between neurons within our brains. Brain waves are produced by synchronized electrical pulses from masses of neurons communicating with each other. Brain waves are detected using sensors placed on the scalp. They are divided into bandwidths to describe their function. But are best thought of as continuous spectrum of consciousness, from slow, loud, and functional to fast, subtle, and complex. All right. It is a handy analogy to think of brainwaves as musical notes. The low frequency waves are like a deeply penetrating drum beat, while the higher frequency brainwaves are more like a subtle high-pitched flute. Like a symphony, the higher and lower frequencies link and cohere with each other through harmonics. Our brainwaves change according to what we're doing and feeling. When slower brainwaves are dominant, we can feel tired, slow, sluggish, or dreamy. The higher frequencies are dominant when we feel weird or hyper alert. The descriptions that follow are only broad descriptions. In practice, things are far more complex, and brainwaves reflect different aspects when they occur in different locations in the brain. So these are the different, levels of brainwaves, right? Which obviously relate to frequencies: infralow, delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves, gamma waves, and I'm not going to go through this whole thing here, but they affect the brain, can affect behavior on many different levels. And especially if you're exposed to certain frequencies for a certain amount of time. So, really interesting stuff. I encourage people to look up, if you want to know what maybe might be going on here, I encourage you to look up what the different frequencies, how different frequencies can affect brainwaves, and what the brainwaves are, what the different brainwaves are. I don't claim to be an expert, but when I heard David Gordon Green talk about the radio tower, I was like, oh, what emits from a radio tower? Frequencies. Well, what could those frequencies be? How do those frequencies affect people? What type of frequencies could be affecting Michael Myers? And again, there's two ways you can do this. You can open the door up and explain everything, and now everybody knows everything, and it's just this huge thing or whatever. But you don't have to do that. You can still keep it a mystery. You can still have this kind of a story. If this is what they're doing, you can still have this kind of a story and still keep it a mystery, and still kind of put the onus on the audience and the characters on screen to kind of figure it out. And you don't have to explain it all. You can kind of make us go, oh, I wonder if so does that mean, oh, I bet you that means, and it's like that water cooler discussion you can have even after the movie's done, which is really, really cool. That's smart. That's smart not to give everything up. You know what I'm saying? But I think that radio tower is going to be emitting certain levels of frequencies that potentially affect Michael Myers. Now, again, I'm the first, me. It doesn't need an explanation. But I'm just simply saying that I think this is probably the avenue for which they may be going. And it could be really cool. It all depends on the execution. Again, looking at it from the franchise perspective, right? Obviously, as a purist, Halloween 1 was the complete story for me, but this might be cool. It might be cool. Also, we know that the working title, I believe the working title, I stand to be corrected, is Cave Dweller, if I'm not mistaken. Well, that's interesting. So let's go over to the other screen here, and let's talk about a little bit of the history of Halloween. All right, let me just, sorry about this, guys. So this comes to us from National Geographic. This is inside the Irish Hell Caves where Halloween was born. Just gives you something to think about. Just gives you something to gnaw on over the next little while. There's a lot of funky words in here that I'm not totally sure how to pronounce, but I've brought up the correct pronunciations on them, so I'm going to try to refer to them. In the middle of a field in a lesser known part of Ireland is a large mound occupied by sheep. These livestock wander freely, chewing the grass beneath their feet. Yet, had they been in that same location 2,000 years ago, these animals probably would have been stiff with terror, held aloft by chanting, costumed pagans while being sacrificed to Celtic demons that inhabited nearby Owenogget, I think is how you say that. Let me just get the proper pronunciation here. Owenogget. That's right. Owenogget. Okay. Inhabited nearby Owenogget Cave. Fascinating. Considered by the ancient Celts to be a passage between Ireland and its devil-infested otherworld, Owenogget, pronounced, Owenogget, and meaning Cave of the Cats, was the birthplace of the Samhain festival. Now that's actually pronounced Samhain for those of you that might not know. I know Donald Pleasant says Samhain, and we've come to know it as Samhain. The correct pronunciation is actually Samhain. Was the birthplace of the Samhain festival, the ancient roots of Halloween, according to Irish archaeologist Daniel Curley. Far from the child-friendly event it has become, Halloween can trace its origins to a bloody and eerie ritual marked in, I believe that's Rathcrohan, I think is how you pronounce that. Marked in Rathcrohan, a former Celtic centre buried beneath the farmland of Ireland's County Roscommon. Fascinating. Now, the article does go on there, and it's really interesting with some of the things they talk about. So I'm speculating and predicting that maybe there's something going on beneath the radio tower. Maybe there was several hundred years ago, before Haddonfield existed, there was some crazy shit that was going on at this location. Maybe the radio tower was built on something. Maybe the town was built on, unbeknownst to them. I don't know. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, oh, come on, lame. I know. I'm not saying it's the right direction. I'm not saying... But I admit it's a little more interesting, and I would favor that more than it just being a cool place to have a climax. I mean, at least it's layered. There's symbolism there. There's opportunities for cinematic language. And, you know, again, you guys know me. I'm a Halloween purist. I'm the first to, I mean, it's not necessarily what I would do, but I do like that at least they're connecting the dots to the potentially, I said they are, potentially they could connect the dots to the origins of Halloween, and this frequency, the radio tower emitting certain frequencies and affecting the brain, perhaps altering consciousness to some degree. I mean, that's interesting to me because it's not something that you have to explain everything. You know, you just have to, you know, plant the seeds and kind of give some tidbits of information and allude to it, hint to that, and allow the characters on screen to kind of discover that, and we live vicariously through them discovering that. But you don't have to Halloween 6: The Curse of Michael Myers it and over-explain and serve everything on a silver platter where there's no nuance and there's no mystery at all. You know, I think there is a balance to be had, and I think you probably could take that approach. I'm not saying that is the approach they're taking. I'm just saying that I believe that based on what David Gordon Green has said and kind of listening to what he's saying, it probably has more to do than just, hey, it's a cool location for a climax. You know what? Hey, come October 2022, we watch the movie. Maybe it is just a cool place for a climax. But I think they're going to try and connect it to the origins of Halloween. And maybe there's caves, quote unquote, or tunnels or ruins or something underneath where the radio tower is. Maybe they got to go there and discover something or whatever. And they discover that there's a certain ancient evil that has been sort of, you know, whatever. I don't know. I mean, obviously the origins of Halloween are not in the farmlands of Illinois. But who knows what was going, you know, when it was brought over, right? And who knows what was going on at that time? It's a movie. You can fucking create shit for the sake of entertainment, but connect it to real life stuff. And that's what I think they're likely going to do, at least how I feel right now. That could change when we get new information and as the weeks and months move along. That could change. Now, the last thing I want to say is this, and shout out to the commenter who made this point on my last video. I forget your channel name, my apologies, but I was thinking the same thing. When I saw your comment, I was like, he's picked up on it too. And it was confirmation for me that I'm not the only one that's feeling this way. There's a line, of course, in the 1978 original, as we know, where Dr. Loomis says, you know, inhumanly patient, waiting for some secret silent alarm to trigger him off. And if the filmmakers, if David Gordon Green and company are paying as close attention to the 1978 original as they say they are, and as they should be to sort of connect everything and bring it all home, that's an interesting line that clearly does not mean radio tower and all that kind of stuff. It was supposed to be ambiguous and it was supposed to be more philosophical than anything else. Not really tangible. It's kind of strange. Like, what is that? You know, but you can take that and it's like, oh, and you can add a literal interpretation to it. You know, it's like, oh, well, what are radio frequencies? What are frequencies? They're secret. They're silent. You can't see them, can't hear them. Generally speaking, you can, you know, but out in the world, it's not like we can hear them or see them. We don't see our cell phone, you know, the cell phone way, you know, we don't, they're secret and they're silent. It's as if he's waiting for it to trigger him off. Your mind has just been blown. I agree with the commenter. I agree that that's something that we should pay big attention to. Big attention to. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all there. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. I'll be back soon. In the meantime, in between time, cheers.